The ancient Roman cityscape was a bustling labyrinth during the day, but at night it became a shadowy world full of dangers. By sunset, wealthy Romans retreated to their homes or parties, leaving the streets to thieves, gangsters, and desperate slaves. Unlike today's well-lit urban cities, Rome's streets were often pitch black, lit only by flickering oil lamps. Although the lack of public lighting was inconvenient and dangerous for commoners, it provided a tactical advantage to criminals. Historians wrote about gangs that thrived in darkness, ambushing unsuspecting passers-by. What's more, Rome's firefighters doubled as night patrolmen, not so much to keep you safe, but to guard buildings from vengeful arsonists. Today on Binge History, we are exploring the dangerous streets of ancient Rome after dark, and what you should avoid doing if you ever find yourself accidentally traveling back in time. Rome's criminal underworld operated like a shadow government. There were armed robbers who targeted people in less populated or darker parts of the city, using isolation to their advantage. Adding to the chaos were the street gangs, who frequently caused disruptions, especially in poorer neighborhoods. Some organized gangs even worked for politicians, ensuring their rivals didn't make it home after heated debates. So, where should you steer clear of if you were in ancient Rome? The Suburra, for one, was a rough spot. Tucked between the Esquiline and Viminal hills, just north of the Colosseum, it was notorious for its dirty streets, cheap taverns, and even cheaper brothels. Roman writers often described it as wild and chaotic, but it wasn't all bad. The Suburra was a melting pot of cultures, home to people from all walks of life and different nationalities. In fact, Julius Caesar lived in the Suburra region for many years, during his childhood and early adulthood. Then there was the Emporium, the city's warehouse district. It was bustling with dock workers and temporary merchants, but the area reeked from a massive pile of broken olive oil jars nearby. Across the river was Trastevere, a crowded neighborhood full of newcomers to Rome. It wasn't rough, but not exactly respectable. Outside the Illyrian walls, the Vatican area was another peculiar place. It was filled with clay pits, cemeteries, and vineyards that produced poor quality wine. These areas weren't necessarily dangerous, but they weren't places you'd want to linger after dark. Rome's urban design practically invited trouble. The streets were narrow, winding, and often flanked by towering insulae, which were apartment blocks of the time. These design elements created perfect choke points for ambushes. Some streets were so narrow that even a single chariot couldn't pass, forcing pedestrians into tight, vulnerable spaces. To make things worse, residents often used the cover of darkness to dump trash, or worse, pee from their balconies onto the streets below. At night, the bustling forums, once alive with trade and chatter, turned into eerie, silent zones. This emptiness made them a favorite hunting ground for thieves and opportunists. Public latrines were another hot spot for muggings. Imagine getting robbed while answering nature's call. Rome's answer to nighttime lawlessness was the vigiles, a mix between firefighters and police. Established by Emperor Augustus in 6 CE, the early vigiles were all slaves, but by Nero's time they were made up of freedmen. Initially, recruitment for the vigiles was difficult due to the role's high mortality rate. To maintain their numbers, emperors replenished the force with slaves or incentivized poor freemen and Latins to join. In 24 CE, a law was enacted granting full citizenship and a cash bonus after 6 years of service to attract recruits. This was later reduced to 3 years. The vigiles were tasked with extinguishing fires, arresting criminals, and maintaining public order. However, their success was limited. Poorly paid and lacking loyalty to their duties, many vigiles ignored their responsibilities or demanded bribes from both criminals and citizens. Records indicate that during the Great Fire of Rome, the vigiles were more concerned with looting the city than controlling the fires and ensuring public safety. Can you imagine? Your house is on fire, and the only help you can count on is a corrupt ex-slave demanding payment before lifting a bucket of water. Romans were deeply superstitious, and nighttime wasn't just dangerous because of human threats. Many believed in lemures, malevolent spirits that roam the streets after sunset. It was common for people to avoid certain alleys rumored to be haunted by the restless dead. Religious ceremonies were even held to appease these spirits, especially during the annual Lemuria festival. During this time, Romans would throw beans over their shoulders while chanting incantations to ward off evil ghosts. And for those hoping to avoid haunted places, Piazza del Popolo was thought to be haunted by Nero's restless spirit, who was buried nearby after his death. Legend has it that his spirit took the form of crows, haunting the area and instilling fear in locals. Also, the Gemonian Stairs, a flight of steps leading from the Capitoline Hill to the Roman Forum, were infamous as the Stairs of Mourning, where executions took place and the cries of the condemned were said to linger in the air. So if you ever found yourself in ancient Rome, especially at night, what should you do? Navigating Rome's streets required strategy. Wealthy citizens often traveled with armed bodyguards like lictors, or used litter bearers to carry them swiftly through dangerous areas. Others adopted disguises, wearing plain cloaks to avoid attention. For the lower classes, the solution was safety in numbers. Small groups of workers or friends would band together for mutual protection. Women, in particular, rarely ventured out at night unless accompanied by male relatives. If you plan to spend much time in risky areas, we recommend hiring a bodyguard, often retired gladiators. But be careful, some bodyguards were thieves themselves. Despite the dangers, Roman nightlife wasn't entirely bad. Taverns, bathhouses, and brothels stayed open late, attracting those brave enough to risk the streets. These establishments became hubs of storytelling, gambling, and debauchery. One popular activity was dice gaming, where bets were high and tempers higher. Drunken brawls often spilled into the streets, adding yet another layer of chaos to Rome's nightlife. Juvenal, a Roman poet, even lamented about how these places attracted troublemakers. But who actually ventured out at night? The wealthy elite preferred their lavish villas for social gatherings, while young men looking for excitement often took risks in the streets. Beyond crime, navigating Rome at night was fraught with physical dangers. The bustling nighttime traffic consisted primarily of carts delivering goods that were banned during the day due to congestion. As Rome evolved, efforts to curb nighttime crime improved. By the time of Emperor Constantine, the Roman Empire had undergone significant administrative and social changes. While the streets were never truly safe, they became less perilous compared to earlier centuries. And just in case you might forget the tips for surviving on the streets of ancient Rome at night, be sure to save this video to rewatch later and subscribe to Binge History for more interesting stories like this.